Good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I see that people have already started joining, and we have already reached mark of 50 already. So I would like to welcome each and every one of you aboard AMP Employability and Soft Skill Program. So during these times of lockdown in many countries, AMP has taken this initiative in collaboration with Reed Academy and Swift e-learning services to help and support its members, volunteers, and anyone who is looking to improve its skill via this 15-day soft skill program. And trust me, it is one of the very expensive training, and this initiative of AMP is an attempt to help you stay ahead of the curve and prepare you for the life after this pandemic. So before we jump into the topic, I would briefly introduce AMP. So I would not take much of your time. So about AMP, as it is right in front of you, is registered in India and United States of America as a non-profit organization, and AMP has completed 12 years serving community in the field of education, employment, and empowerment. And it has a vision to positively impact lives of 10 million people by 2030. And its mission is to empower Muslims for a greater benefit of the society in general and nation as a whole. And AMP's vision is to be a model Muslim community which is advanced in education, socially progressive, culturally vibrant, politically influential, economically dynamic. What AMP has achieved in past 12 years is right in front of you. I will not be able to discuss the entire thing. You can just have a brief look at it so we can move ahead. AMP's presence is we've got more than 100 active chapters across India. We are present in 19 states within India, and we have active volunteers in 16 countries. We have 5,000 plus active members who are connected to AMP. Our online presence, we've got 125,000 people who are connected to AMP. Our members, professionals connected via Instagram, Facebook, Google, WhatsApp, and LinkedIn. If you wish to join AMP, you can always log on to www.ampindia.org/join AMP, and we'll be very, very happy to have you on board with AMP. So I would like to introduce you all to the speaker of the day, Mr. Shah Siddiqui, who is the CEO of Reed Academy, who will be taking a live session today. And we also have Mr. Saeed, Director of Technologies at Swift e-learning services with us. I request Mr. Saeed to talk for about 2 minutes before we start the live session. Saeed bhai?
Yeah, Jazakallah, Shahbaz bhai. Yeah, so yesterday, we had our first session, and I think most of you might have got an email from us this morning on how to enroll into the LMS system. Yesterday, Mr. Shah Saab has explained about time management. So we had uploaded few courses, meaning few course components there. So you might have got an email from the subject as AMP Soft Skills Program Course Enrollment. And if you don't find that email in your inbox, you can check your spam folder or your junk folder. So just in case if it doesn't land in the inbox. So if you haven't received an email, okay, please let us know in the comments, okay, and we will be able to guide you. And 192 registrants from yesterday, we did send an email. So I'll quickly share my screen and show you the email, how it looks like. So that way, it will be easier for you. Yeah, this is how, the email would look like. AMP Soft Skills Program Course Enrollment. It will have a URL, a username, and a password. And then you can just click on that, and then you can get started. Okay, so this is it. And it has got, an course assessment as well. So, once you take the course, you will see an assessment with 16 questions. Answer those 16 questions. And then at the end of the, the program, meaning of the course program, you would be getting a certificate based on your performance in the assessment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Saeed bhai. I request Mr. Shah Siddiqui to please take over the live session so we can start it off for now. And also, Saeed bhai, I've got few queries in the chat box that they have not received email. If you can just address them personally.
We'll do that. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Welcome, guys. Thank you for logging in on time. This is, again, your instructor, Shah. And I hope you can see the screen. We will get on right from where we left. Is the voice, the video, and the slides visible?
Yes, if you can just turn it into the full screen mode.
Okay.
And voice is clearer.
Okay, we're on the full screen mode now. I hope that's pretty visible. So once again, thank you all having a great day. I hope you all are having a great day. Let's get started from where we left. The topic is once again time management, and we'll try to catch up a review on what we did yesterday. And just so you all know, we're working on a tool, a soft skills tool, called time management now. This is like a platform for every other tool that we will incorporate in our session, which itself is a part of the broader framework that we talked about yesterday, where our ultimate purpose is to bring about sustainable development, is to manage complexity in an organizational context, and also to work on increasing our knowledge of the knowing, which means that we would be on a journey towards learning as much as possible relating to our area of interest, relating to soft skills, as well as having a better worldview. So we would start out with our fourth module, but before we do that, I just want to catch up. Since I'm not getting a feedback, I'll just try to talk about what we did yesterday. We talked about time management as the hallmark of management professionals. And then we also talked about how it begins by setting goals. And then in this, we have based, the strategy on a few acronyms. These acronyms, I don't know if I'm able to emphasize enough, but I want you all to write it down. Like I talked about PM relating to personal motivation, DOG relating to delegation and organizational tools, and then CM for crisis management. So whenever you run into these, use these little tricks of the trade to get to learn or remember these acronyms. Because we will run into a lot of P's, C's, and the habits and the different criteria for these acronyms relating to SMART goals and whatnot. So yesterday's area to catch up was to plan effectively and then to base it on your personal motivation. Everything that we would be doing has a foundation of personal motivation, your cognitive skills, and then the delegation tactic, as well as managing crisis. And then we talked about the important and urgent matrix, where you would base it on the importance, the urgency, the priorities, and the deadlines. And we talked about how to mark these, record these activities on your calendar, and then also pay attention to the goals that relate to your personal achievements, goals that are related to your work, and then not just goals or not just tasks that are important from its urgency or from its deadline. So anything that's routine and recurring will take a lot of time and will not probably be relating to your own personal achievements. And anything that can be postponed should be postponed. So with that, we will start out our next module, which is planning wisely. So as you can see on the screen, the hallmark of successful management is being consistently productive each day. So here, what I mean to say is you have to be looking at managing or building these habits relating to your personal goal on a consistent basis, on a daily basis. So we talked about how to create or how to have your own writing journal. Writing journal in the sense, just having a book or a way to record your items. Some people still prefer the old-fashioned way of having it written down on a piece of paper, which I believe is very handy. So if you all have right next to you your writing journal or your recording book or your screen to write something, then please go ahead and make it a habit of using it on a regular basis. Now, some of the important applications that I always talk about are, the one that I use, reminders, okay, for your tasks, and notes in an iOS Apple application. So depending on whatever you want to use, I found notes to be very, very friendly. Some people use Wunderlist, another application, but that's not that's a non-iOS application. But I've also seen personalities like Satya Nadella rely on, encourage Wunderlist, because it combines your task among, or it distributes your task in the team based on your email. But as long as we have a database to to be recovered or to be updated from, we don't have to worry much. In the previous days, in the past, where we didn't have these databases where we couldn't search for the records or your notes or your tasks, and at the same time have it updated on your different platforms, it was a big problem, and there were different ways of doing it. So recording, when it comes to, has to be done on a productivity journal, and then, you will move on. So if you take a look at this slide, it talks about notebook, prioritize, cross off completed item, carry over unfinished task. So this is basically when you record, there should be a way to cross off these tasks. Now, is it important for us to keep these tasks on a regular basis and cross it off when we're done with? Yes, of course, because crossing off gives you a sense of motivation, a sense of satisfaction. And once again, it's relating to your cognitive ability. It's your mind that will look at it. When you make a list or when you create a task on a piece of paper and you do it the day before and you go back to sleep or you're sleeping, then your subconscious mind at the back end is working on these tasks, is trying to remind you when the day begins. So there has a lot to do with the way your mind works, and this is how we would like for you all to also sign off or complete your task, because when something is done, there is a sense of satisfaction. And this sense of satisfaction is actually translated into as something called clarity, something called confidence, and something called, something relating to clearing off of things. And this is nothing but, a sense of satisfaction. And once again, in the back end, what happens is something is secreted in your brain. They call it endorphin, and then this is how you get this sense of satisfaction. So we would have to relate these tasks as something important, okay? And then also to cross it off when it's done. And the reason behind this is the motivation that you need, the confidence that you need, and then the clarity. Now these terms that I have used, the confidence and the clarity and the satisfaction, gets carried over to the next task. Now, when we learn a tool called procrastination, somebody had a question about it. You will see how clarity will allow you or give you the ability to finish your important task and not to procrastinate. So this, goes on. And if you look at the bottom of the slide, carry over unfinished task, this is a task which was not completed within the deadline. So what you do is take it over to the next day. But if it gets carried over for a day or 2 or 3 days, then you really have to know that this is something that does not belong on your list. You either delete it or delegate it or give it to somebody else. I'm going to give you a time to ask any questions towards the end of the module, not right now. And once again, we have a 30-minute questionnaire towards the end of the day. So how would you maximize your power of personal productivity journal? You would plan it the night before. Does it make sense? Keep your journal with you. Look for the sense of satisfaction. Removal task postponed 3 times. Now, I told you when you plan the night before, that's really a good habit. The planning can relate to anything relating to your task. Okay, and there are a lot of productivity experts that talk about how to plan the night before, even for the type of attire you will be putting on, like the dress that you would like to wear. And see, some people go about planning for the entire week as to what they need to wear, what shoes to put on, and what to eat. And if you were into, the planning of preparing your meal, then you would also plan ahead. And this is very normal. So it actually helps when you plan the night before, your subconscious mind is at it, working on it. So you are prepared to do this the next day, you're prepared to work on it, and then you're prepared to cross it off. All right, as you see it on the slide, this is another time management technique that uses, an experimental, procedure where you have to incorporate rocks, pebbles, sand, and water. Now, this is a technique, a time management technique, where it illustrates how much time you have, because each item represents, one of your tasks on the spectrum, from how important it is to how trivial or how unimportant it is. And the glass jar is what we would need to have, which represents your entire time. Now, the best way to remember is, RSWP, like how we use RSVP. And once again, this is just a trick for you all to remember how, the rocks, pebbles, sand, and water, takes place. So this time management technique of utilizing your most important, utilizing your time towards the most important tasks are in the form of a glass jar, which represents water, or which represents, your time, where you put in water and start putting in rocks as the most important task, relating to your personal achievements. Then you would start out with the next, mass, which is pebbles, the small stones, which may not be so important, but are, relating to your personal goals. And then next in order is the sand, which takes up the rest over, space. Okay. And what's not important, and what's trivial and what's not very urgent is water. So this is a time management technique of understanding how, the priority of your task will take place in the form of rocks, pebbles, sand, and water. I hope this part is clear. There are some interactive exercises that we can do it now, but I'm sure you'll find some on your manual that you have online that you can try out. And with this approach, we also come into a situation where, once you take care of rocks and pebbles and sand, and whatever is left is taken care of with water, then you have a sense of, urgency towards accomplishing your task, towards completing your task off the list, and how with this, the stress levels, will come down, stress relating to the task that you have on your list, how the urgency to take off the list develops, and how you have a clarity, or you have a clear vision for, other competing priorities. So this is one of the many time management, experimental techniques that we try to understand how to manage time. Now, once again, we go back on saving some time during the day, a few minutes here and there. And I summarized it yesterday saying that all these times will add up to your productivity, and then it will add up to free time that you would have, that you can offer to yourself or to whatever the life offers. And then this amounts to at least about 2 years in your entire lifespan. So this is how you would measure it, 2 years of extra free time that you have for whatever you need to use it on. Now we'll move on to the next time management technique for handling projects. This is not, just big project, but anything that's, making your hands full. So here what we do is, the very usual technique of breaking it down into chunks, okay? That's what a chunk here means. And then blocking off the time for this. You may have heard the word, I need to block some time off for this, task to be prioritized. So you block off your time when nobody's around, very early, even before the day starts, even before the emails start coming in. And then you tackle it single-handedly with, a focus. So that's what CBT refers to. Now, from RSWP, we moved on to CBT. This is just a 3-letter acronym, should be easy to remember. So chunk, how would you chunk it down? You would break it down. You could break it down into tasks or sub-projects or activities that may not take more of your time. A general consensus is to have this chunk done for a 15-minute period, okay? 15-minute period makes sense, not just here, but throughout the world of time management. Why? Because 15 seems to be a very reasonable number, okay? And there is also a topic called the power of 15 that you would have to look it up, or we may run into it. Because 15 minutes is a very convenient time, especially for a majority of people who wouldn't mind spending 15 minutes, okay? If you were to call somebody and say, if I could have some of your time, and then if the person agrees, you're not going to say 15 minutes of your time. You'll most likely say a few minutes of your time or 2 minutes of your time. But in the management technique, 15 minutes is the slot allocated for the accomplishment of any task. So 15 is a number that we will run into, okay? And just so you know, there are like 96 15-minute, chunks in your entire day, okay, that you can bank on. So we'll build on this later, but, break it into 15-minute intervals that you can focus, without being, distracted. And then being able to complete the task. And then, of course, for this 15 minutes or more, you would have to block the time and handle it single-handedly. So that's what the next time management technique is known as for handling big projects, CBT. I hope this is clear. Another form of another form of moving ahead, or another management technique is known as ready, fire, and aim. Okay, this is to avoid other forms of delaying the task. Now, if you can notice, the title, the topic says ready, fire, and aim. There's something wrong. It should really be aim and then shoot or fire, right? Now, this is done here for a reason, so you all remember. Okay, we don't need to set up an acronym here for you all to remember this. It's very easy. Aim, and then shoot or fire. But here, the important thing is the fire comes here, because we're trying to say that in the world of management, the importance is given to the art of art of getting things done. Okay, and we talked about how every task that you are paid for is measurable. So we have a deadline here, and we wouldn't want you to be over planning. We wouldn't want you to be planning, so that you just fail to deliver. So here, the task, is to be ready for it and then shoot even before you aim. Now, there are reasons that when you shoot before aiming, you might not hit the bullseye, as they call it. It may not be a bingo. It doesn't have to be a bingo, because we have the 80-20 rule, where 20% of your efforts bring about 80% of the result. So even if you were to miss, the target, you would still move ahead. So here, basically, it's to say that you should not procrastinate. You should not be obsessed with over planning, and you should plan enough and then shoot or deliver, as opposed to continue planning, is continue evaluating it or continue reviewing it. But you do have to adjust your aim, as often as you can, even after you deliver the project, because the lessons learned is what we talk about. They say it's sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. Okay. All right. So this is the technique, time management technique, especially to contrast many forms of procrastinations. Now, to catch up on this, we have a little video. I think it's like a 1-minute video.
John was having trouble optimizing his time at the office so that he could finish all of his work. His coworker told him to try the chunk, block, and tackle approach to break up huge projects into smaller, easier to deal with tasks. The first step is to break John's project up into 15-minute chunks. The second step is to block these chunks by importance and set a time to do them. John should start doing these chunks as soon as he got to work. The last step would be to tackle these chunks individually and focus only on them. John could manage his time and finish all of his work before the end of the day.
All right, that was a review of what I just said now. And these questions are on your assessment. I'm not gonna go over it now, or only when there is a need. And let's move on to our next module, where we talk about procrastination. So this is known as, once again, the hallmark of most successful people. If you can handle tasks, complete it, or jump on it the first thing in the morning without even having to think about it, then you have handled procrastination. This is the most important, habit that you have to build on. This is the most important technique in time management that you would have to have a grip on, okay? And he who knows how not to procrastinate will win, okay? Tackling procrastination is the most important technique, and we'll try to spend a little extra time on this. I'm sure you all understand what procrastination is. It's delaying a task that should be a priority. We all procrastinate. I do. In fact, I have been procrastinating one task for about 3 years. It's still on my list. I were to do it if we didn't have this webinar, but I know I would procrastinate further. I wouldn't be able to complete it even after Ramadan, or the session we have today, or the series that end later on this month. So procrastination is like addiction, call it, or a disease. And the ability to overcome this, is the hallmark of the most successful people. I'm sure you guys agree to it. And this is like something that is built in, relating to us, and that happens all the time. He who can handle procrastination will be successful. So why do we procrastinate? What are the reasons, is what we will look at, okay? Now, there are some reasons that are built in. There are some reasons that you yourself create, and you always have a reason why you procrastinated, why you couldn't get to finishing this book, why you couldn't get to finishing the tough task, okay? The most boring project that you had. Now, how would you make up your mind to get your hands on it? How would you make up your mind to understand? There are some techniques that are derived from our way of being an aware systems practitioner. We touched on it briefly yesterday. You can do all unconventional methods to get yourself immersed or, drowned in the project by touching it, wetting your hands, drawing some pictures, trying to play with it. However you would like to be obsessed with, you would have to get to starting the project. But why do we procrastinate? The first major reason is there is no clear deadline. But even if you were to have a deadline, then there might be other things that would pop up, like you don't know how to do it, right? And you don't know where to begin. But in most cases, it's the clear deadline. For example, the project that I've been trying to procrastinate for 3 years doesn't have a deadline. Although it's important, it's for my own benefit, it's for my own achievements. However, I have been procrastinating, and I've been procrastinating other projects for days, and then I do it all the time. So this is where you would have to build on, okay? And there are further tools to see how we can procrastinate, how we can avoid doing it. Now, we talked about the last topic where we said recording journal, clarity, and then confidence, and all those things relating to your brain work. So some of these things are clear, relating to your cognitive abilities and how you see or how your mind sees. So when there is no clear deadline, that is one big red flag for you not to begin, okay? And then you could say that I am overwhelmed, I am swamped, as they call it, I don't have the time, okay? But in reality, you lack the passion, you don't have the passion, you don't have the motivation, you don't have a reason to do it. And then lastly, there is a fear of failure, which we all have to face, or we all are conscious to face. So procrastinating remains the most important topic, and this is the hallmark of successful people, how they avoid delaying the projects. There are ways to overcome procrastination. First one is you don't have to do it. If you're not doing it, this is off your list, which means that you are no longer procrastinating. And the next thing you can do is delegate it. We will touch this topic again in our future modules, how to delegate and the reasons and the ways to delegate. And then if you cannot delegate, you have to do it. Asking for advice. We have a module coming up, coaching and mentoring. We will focus on this a lot. It's always good to ask for an advice, okay? And it's always good to have your advice, legalized or legitimized by having somebody, in your workplace, in your organization, known as, advisor, your mentor, or your coach, okay? Chop it up. It's always easier to start, the chunks with the chunks, how we talked about it in CBT. A 15-minute rule, we talked about it. Clear deadline is what you need in the beginning. So when you are given a project, chances are you always have a deadline. It's always better to have it cleared before the deadline, or have a deadline way before the actual deadline, okay? And then the most important thing is you have to reward yourself, or at least you have to know what the reward is. That's the motivation you need to overcome procrastination. And lastly, you would have to be focused. You have to single-handedly tackle it, okay? Which is where you would remove distractions, and you would remove, all the clutter that will bring in. So these are the 9 ways to overcome procrastination. And further, we will take a look at how to handle, procrastination, you know, on the nip of it, or you can say how to handle it, you know, point blank, very close to. So this is a very famous technique known as eat that frog. I'm sure you are familiar with it. And this is a very famous, you know, tool. I think it's by Brian Tracy, one of the very famous time management and you know, management experts. So what do we mean here by eat the frog? Let's say you come to work every day at 8 a.m. and then you know that as soon as you come to work, you have to finish this first boring task. And here the frog represents your boring task, okay? The job that you wouldn't like to do, whatever it is, having a meeting with somebody, your boss, or having to do, you know, a roundup, or having to summarize your task from yesterday, or having to write a, you know, a little report, okay? Or meet with your team and delegate work. So if this is your frog, your toughest task, then you have to call it a frog. And if you know that the most toughest part of your job is eating this frog in the morning or finishing this task in the morning, then you very well know that the worst thing that can happen to you, you know, throughout the day is having to do that or having to eat the frog. So you have the satisfaction of at least knowing that the worst thing that could happen to you is you have to eat the frog. Now, obviously, eating the frog is not good, okay? Eating the frog is not, you know, conceivable, although I have seen some videos of people in the crisis even eating the frogs. And there are people in the world who enjoy eating the frog, but at least not us. So how do we handle this? How do we handle eating the frog? It's a tough job that you have to do, and this is how you would overcome your procrastination. The way you look at it is if you need to eat this frog and you have and you know that the entire day this is what you'll be doing, and once you overcome this, you're done. So you have the satisfaction of knowing that this is the tough part. So what would you do? You would look at the frog as a tough task, and then look at, you know, your other task or the two most important tasks as the two frogs that you have. So when you have two frogs to eat, what would you do? You would eat the worst or the ugliest frog, which means that as a way to handle procrastination, start with the toughest job. There are personalities that we're into who will come in the morning and ask for the team to give them the toughest project or the task for the day. Now, when you have a team of 8 people and one is asking, you know, the leader to give him the toughest task for the day, wouldn't that be a relief? Okay, but there are people, what are they actually doing? They are developing themselves. They are improving their own motivational skills. They are improving their abilities, you know, to handle tough jobs. Because if they are getting used to eating this frog, then there would be no task as such eating a frog. Lastly, if you know that you have to eat a frog, then it doesn't help to just sit and look at the frog, okay? You cannot be looking at the frog and having him, you know, scare you further without eating. So the best thing would be to eat the frog and without having to think about it, okay? I hope you're getting my, you know, analogy of eat the frog concept. This is very important. And then you have to know that you have to develop a routine of eating the frog. It's not easy, but that's the tough job. But if you can do this, time management is in your grip, procrastination is out of the way. All right, so I hope the eat the frog concept was clear.
Jacob procrastinated a lot, but his coworker Brian wasn't. Jacob's boss left the two of them a large amount of paperwork to do within a week. Luckily for Jacob, Brian was there to help him out. Brian assigned half the work to Jacob and half to himself. Then, he split it up into realistic goals that made the project seem less intimidating. After removing the distractions around him, Jacob found that not only did he reach his goals on time, but that he also had a lot less stress. After the project was over and all the paperwork was done, Brian decided to treat them both to coffee as a reward for a job well done.
All right, so would you all be able to eat the frog starting tomorrow? Well, I'm hearing yes. I'm just guessing. So if this is the first thing you have to go through every day, you might as well do it right away, okay? And then if you have to eat 2, eat the worst one, the ugliest one. And then finally, if you have to eat one, it doesn't pay to just, you know, look at him and not eat it, okay? So that completes our topic for procrastination, a very important topic, but we will run into it, throughout our sessions. And you will yourself realize how you would have to procrastinate. The questions, like I said, are once again on your assessment. Take a look at it as we would like to move ahead. All right, CM is crisis management, okay? Now, as you all can see, this was the foundation where your first topic of managing time relating to setting up, a ledger and setting up your task was given. And along with this, we had two other topics. If you all remember, PM, personal motivation, D, delegation, OG, organizational tool. And the last one was crisis management, okay? This is a very major topic, okay? How to mitigate risk management, is a part of crisis management. That's a specialized topic, okay, relating to your industry, relating to your job. But right now, we'll just take a look at some general crises that arise, that you encounter. Crises happen for a reason. This is something that you can plan, okay? And then we would like to mitigate our crisis by looking at how much time we have, known as the threshold time, and what can be done, okay, and how it can be done. So when the storm hits, you would have to realize what happened, okay? What were the causes? What will happen next? What event will this impact? And who else need to know this? So these are all the precautions to be taken when the crisis hits. And then also so as to avoid the next crisis. If this is a minor crisis, like relating to a manufacturing facility, relating to scarcity of resources, relating to having the right employee, the human capital needed to do this job, okay, and needed to have something relating to a low inventory level, okay. These are the little storms that, hit us in our day-to-day life. I'm sure every time, you run into your own crisis relating to your workplace, and how would you handle it is what you will look at. And there will be a time where the situation could get worse, okay, and that's how you would plan. Not to mention it, well, we know we all are going through the biggest crisis, of our time, individually, collectively, societal, and at the global scale, a pandemic that we're going through. Now you can look at it how well we were planned for it, okay, and how well the problem was identified. The problem was identified, you can't complain, or you cannot even thank enough China, who gave us a live broadcast of what they did. I'm sure this was a lesson learned for other people. But did every country plan ahead the way, it was identified? Not many, okay? Did they decide on solution? Okay, not many did. And, one of the world's richest, resourceful, industrialized nations, couldn't keep up or didn't take it serious enough, okay? They didn't realize it. So basically, you've identified the problem and you decide on a solution if there is one. In most cases, the solution comes on a trial and error basis, which means that you have to try and see if it works. If it doesn't work, then at least that the next time you have learned it through your crisis, that it will not work and you will not use it, okay? Whether it's working or not, you break it down into parts to realize. And depending on the time frame that you have, you will create a timeline. So this is a bit general about how to manage crisis. And then, we will try to possibly do some cases relating to managing crisis, real life cases, as we move further. All right. And once you have gathered the data, your next step would be to execute the plan, okay? Continue evaluating the plan that's working. Stay organized on the top of the events. Deliver communication to others. This is during the crisis, if you can. This is outside the crisis, prior to, the crisis as crisis management planning, and then also, executing the plan post-crisis. Once the crisis is gone, how would you? So there's a lot to be delegated here. There's a lot to be communicated here. There's a lot to be having people informed. Does it pay to know about an upcoming crisis, a simple crisis that you may run into, and be quiet about it because it might jeopardize your position? No. Okay. Crisis is best handled by communicating it to others. If you think that this crisis is because of you, or you're the reason behind the crisis, and if you keep quiet, this is not going to avoid the crisis. Sometimes it could roll out and become deadly. It could become, a most dangerous to your organization, or the most unhealthy to your personnel. So you need to have a plan for the crisis, whether you're aware of it or not, whether you are responsible for it or not, or whether you blame it on yourself or not. And of course, after the crisis is done, you would have lessons learned. Okay, why it happened, learn from the event, prepare. Throughout the process of time management or the entire soft skills area, you do have to learn a lot. And then I stressed on the knowledge of learning, or the knowledge of knowing. Build on this. Now remember, there is no such thing as failure. Okay, you only learn. You read and learn. This is how I would present it to you. You learn by reading, and sometimes you win, and sometimes you learn. This is how you would look at it. So whatever you're doing, you learn your way through the process. Okay, say you have a project that you're working on. What is the outcome? The outcome is nothing but you learn your way through the process, through the project. So there is no such thing that you would have to, be conscious about, or your mind have to be thinking about as to, did I achieve it? Did I do it right? Well, as long as you can say to yourself that I have learned my way through, you have done. And this applies to the crises.
Karen, a floor manager for a paper company, woke up to discover that she had contracted the flu. Karen had to call in sick, but duties of the floor manager wouldn't fall to the wayside. Karen had been prepared for such a crisis. She had made a plan that would make sure that all of her responsibilities were taken care of. She also made sure that all of the proper people were informed and that everyone knew their part in the contingency plan ahead of time. When Karen returned, she returned to work with the knowledge that everything ran smoothly in her absence, all because she was prepared.
All right, let's take a look at these questions real quick, since we are not able to, interact. What do you think when crisis hits, you should implement the first fix that comes to your mind? No, the answer is false. How can you, we talked about how to identify the problem, decide on a solution and stuff like that. So the next question will answer the first one. The best approach when creating a plan during a crisis is all of the above. Please look at these answers. Number 3, true or false? It's true. Number 4, true or false? True. Number 5. Better planning. Number 6. Which question will not help you? I talked about not to blame yourself. So obviously not to blame anybody else. So don't worry about the blame game. Worry about how you would plan, how you would mitigate the risk, how you would work on learning through the crisis. What can be defined as the time that you have before the situation moves out of control? We did talk about this. Threshold time is the time given to you. Call it a critical time. Call it the most sensitive time. Or call it the radioactive time. This is the time you have. You have to know. If you're given 6 minutes to save the planet, you only have 6 minutes, okay? So threshold time is what you have to keep in mind, and it motivates you to know that I only have so much time. Which of these is not a step in creating a plan? This is not the time to applaud. This is not the time to say that you have achieved something. This is not a part of the plan. Number 9. Number C is the right answer. Number 10. When it comes to crisis, we saw the video about illness, fire, theft. This all can be handled. This all can be prepared. So there is no crisis that you cannot, as long as it relates to your workplace. All right, let's move on to the next one, organizing your workplace. Organizational skills. This is also a relatively newer topic because we never paid a hardcore attention to qualitative stuff, the soft area. And we never paid attention to anything relating to not hitting the task. So that's one area known as organizing your workspace. When it comes to organizing your desktop, you know how important it is. And then when it comes to organizing physically your office, you know how important it is. Well, we're mostly talking about relating to your work, your filing systems, your desktop. In the past, we had physical files, okay? And then we had to remove, the dead files. We had to remove, the files that will take away our time. We had to remove the files that were trivial. So that's how you would organize your workplace. In today's world of technology, we're only worried about how to declutter, how to eliminate the clutter. So this is about how to keep your desktop organized or having, your organizational space cleaned up with a clear view and a grip on it. Okay. So how would you declutter? This is, you can relate it to your own productivity tools, your own techniques, however you want to, do it. So you have working files, you have references, and you have a way to archive it. This is applicable to your physical files as well as your, electronic files. You need to have your essential tools, whatever you need to do to keep up your electronic desk space clean. And you need to have, the required, workflow systems, your procedures, your effective filing procedures that highlight what's important, what's not, deadline. You have to set up all these, control mechanisms. You have to turn on all these radio buttons. You have to turn on all these switches to make sure that you're fully equipped for handling, your organization part, especially when it comes to decluttering. Okay. How would you manage your workflow? Take a look at it. Select one task to do at a time. You're using your own technique of tackling it individually. Time yourself depending on, what the workflow is. Ignore everything else, okay? Your undivided attentions. No breaks or interruptions. Give yourself a reward. The best example here is to look at your devices where you get messages, look at your email system that you get messages, and how you would not be distracted, how you would be able to ignore everything else. So there are ways of looking at it. We have folders these days. I'm sure you all are used to it. So your most important folder is your prime folder, and then you would work on it. And then the best way would be to do, one email at a time. Once you open an email, make sure, first of all, you get to that email, the one on the top, and you finish it before moving ahead. Because by the time you open your system or your phone, and by the time you get into your email, you're distracted with a pop-up and then you're gone. You won't know it until you realize that it's past 5 minutes that I have been wasting my time. So these are your own techniques that you need to build on. And once again, we'll provide you the tools that you need, like dealing with emails, okay? Email is best handled in batches. Create delivery rules, create folders for different topics. This is something simple, okay? However, we all know it, but we still do it. Checking the email every 10 minutes would not help. Or checking the email every 2 hours would not help. So if you are in the workplace, you have a window from 9 to 5. So you will not be questioned if you check your email at 9, at 12, and at 5, okay? Because if there is anything left out, you would have a chance to respond back saying that I have received it, acknowledge it. Whether you are able to do it or not is different. But as long as there is an urgent email sitting, in your inbox and you respond to it before you leave saying that I have it, that's good enough. But for this, you don't need to be checking your email every 1 hour. This is the most important thing. There are other areas, but I think I just want to talk about this now, okay? But you do have to remember that this is a wider writing English topic where you would have to remember that every email message that you compose should be strategic, okay? Now this applies to every business message on WhatsApp that you write would have to be strategic. I hope you understand what I mean by strategic. It would have to make sense. It would have to be written in the best possible manner. It would have to incorporate your company goals, in a broader fashion. It would have to incorporate the need for the urgency of the message. It would have to incorporate the purpose of writing the message. It would have to have a subject line. It would have to done the right way, and it would have to be in its entirety, which means that it has to be complete, okay? So you cannot just send a 1 or 2 line funny message. That would be totally not strategic, okay? So expand this to your WhatsApp messages too when it comes to relating your work in a group setting, in a WhatsApp group. So there are certain ways of handling this, that is not mentioned here, but I will relay it. How you would do it, how you would delete it, how you would delegate it, or how you would, defer it. So once you open up an email and you think that this is junk, you know how to delete it. And if you know that this is not so important, how you would defer it. And if you know that it is, not relating to my job description, and you would delegate it. And this is relating to the most important task or your personal achievement or your goal for today, then you would do it. So this is another way of, handling the declutter, another way of not procrastinating with cleaning up your inbox. The next topic is very simple, using calendars. I don't have to stress much about calendars. Gone are the days when we used to have a big calendar on the wall, at least from my time. But now we have, calendars, very smart calendars on our devices, and then are updated accordingly, and will also give you the option to, ping somebody, as well as the option of not to even record the task by just having it downloaded. So I cannot talk enough, or I cannot appreciate enough the calendars that we use on our iPhones. And then I can say for sure that without the iCal, the calendar that I have on my iPhone, life would be, life would have been very difficult. So I'm sure you all use your calendars. I don't have to say much about it. And then you can schedule a task by just talking to your calendar. You don't even have to write it. And then you can set up a reminder, 5, 10, 15 minutes, okay, without which it might be very difficult. And the most important thing is it gets synced on your system, on your desktop. So wherever you are, you can access your calendar, okay. Same is the case with the journal, the notes that we use, okay. And then, of course, there was a time when people used to back up their data, important data, on the email, but that was very tedious and would take up the space unnecessarily. Okay, and then logging into your email wasn't easy. Okay, so there is no question of restoring the database. We have, you know, everything, you know, ready on. I'm forgetting the Windows topic. Always on availability, something like AA, always on availability, especially on your servers. So calendar, use your own way, but there's no way you can be working on your productivity without having a calendar. There is no way you would master time management skill without using a calendar. There is no way you can
Kevin was very disorganized. His desk was covered with various papers, office supplies, and even a half-eaten donut he hadn't finished for breakfast that morning. Kevin soon realized that his work was beginning to suffer, so Kevin decided to make a much-needed change. He asked his colleague Rob if he had any advice. The first piece of advice was to declutter his workspace. Any trash was tossed away, and all files were put in the proper place. After that, they made sure it wouldn't happen again by organizing Kevin's work schedule. By tracking his projects and assignments, Kevin could better prepare for them and wouldn't get overwhelmed again. Now that Kevin is organized, he can now work easily and effectively.
All right, we're going to skip the questions and move on to the next module, delegation made easy, or delegating made easy. So you all understand the importance of delegation, what we talked about. Isn't that a good thing to delegate work to somebody else? Yes, it is. But who could you delegate work to? Somebody lower than you, right? Somebody at the lowest level of the organization, okay? But there are certain rules of delegation. It's the art, once again, it's the art of getting things done. The definition of management remains, you know, not doing the work, but the art of getting things done. So one of the most common ways of this is to not just delegate work to other people, but also to learn how to do it, okay? And then if you are not used to the delegation, if you think you procrastinate delegating your work, then you are missing the fun, okay? I'm calling it fun because that's how you can get things done, okay? And that's how every week you can get things done. So if you are being delegated work, which you are, the purpose of your position at the company is through delegation. So same way you would have to delegate the work, okay? But one thing that you have to remember is when you delegate work, it would also have to benefit the person you are delegating the work to, right? It wouldn't just be clutter. It wouldn't just be scut work that you give him, but it would have to be the work that will improve his personal skill, that would help him, you know, overcome, you know, the hurdles, that will help him learn his process, the work, and that would actually contribute towards his personal development. So this is how, you know, delegation goes. It's a good thing, okay, to delegate, that everyone should use, while there are some rules to be followed, and then you would not delegate critical work. All right, look at this slide, when to delegate. So as long as you delegate and as long as it becomes an opportunity for growth, then you are about doing well, okay? Your delegation makes sense. Recurring tasks. Now, if you go back to your first topic of recurring tasks from RSWP technique, what would we talk about? Recurring tasks. This is trivial, not so important. This takes up your time. So you are better off, you know, delegating recurring tasks. Now, once again, this is fine. This is legal. This is absolutely right. This is in all honesty that you can delegate your recurring tasks. The pink block refers to your not so important task, okay, like the sand. And then you would never delegate critical work, right? For example, if you have to write a report about your team, you would not delegate this. If you have to evaluate somebody, you would not delegate this. You would have to be stupid to do that. All right, to whom should you delegate? These are some simple, you know, rules, criteria. I'm sure you can understand. You wouldn't delegate to somebody who's not knowledgeable, who's not experienced, okay, who has the time, okay. If he's very busy, then he wouldn't be able to. He would require supervision. He would come back to you asking. So once you delegate the work, don't expect that the work to be completed and submitted. You would have to review it. You would have to get it back from him and make sure he has the current workload. All right, so how should you delegate? Now you see these are like circles of spear, right? This is the innermost circle, this is the next circle, it goes on. All right, these all would apply how you should delegate. Waits to be told what to do. Ask what to do. But if you, as you go further up, you would make recommendation then acts. So your goal would be to delegate to somebody who would be in the top 3 or 2 spheres. Okay. He initiates actions and then reports periodically. This is how you would look at. And then you will be getting the reports immediately. So here, this is to say that the amount of responsibility given should equate the amount of authority that he has, okay? So in a corporate world, you never exceed your authority, whether it comes to doing your own task or when it comes to, delegating the task. So these are spheres of independence, and you would like for your delegated work to fall in the top tier, okay? If you delegate to somebody who would wait to be told every step of the task, then you're wasting your time, okay? Then you're not being efficient with your delegation. It would have to be in the top areas. Now, delegation also requires a lot of scent control. When you are training somebody, you need a lot of patience. Why? Because the person is very low on the skills. And then a person is, a person is bothered, okay? And there are people who are scared to ask you once you delegate the work. And then when he's scared to ask, then you will not get a feedback from him. You have no idea how the work is going on. So you will have to make sure that you are available for questions. And chances are the person will not ask you. So you would have to call and ask him if there is anything he needs. So this depends on the sphere, on the level, on the circle, on the sphere where he's at. If he is a person who is not very aggressive when it comes to handling the delegated work, then you would have to go back. At the same time, you should not micromanage. Micromanage is not one of the habits of effective leaders. This is a separate topic, but you would not micromanage when it comes to delegating work. Okay. And then you would also ask for solutions, or you would, test the person who you're delegating. So delegating is the art of science, art of management sciences. Delegation is important. You cannot, progress without delegation. Not the person who is being delegated the work will progress. So this is a required field that you always have to, install in your time management techniques. The importance of full acceptance. Now, this is a step towards the completion. Okay, once the work has been delegated, okay, you will not accept it or you will not receive it unless it's completed. Okay, there might be instances where a person is not able to complete his work. Okay, and if you have finished if you have taken the half-finished work, then you will have a feeling that I shouldn't have given it to him in the first place. And delegation falls in a certain category. If you're delegating people relating to, say, for example, HR work, then that person needs to be delegated with everything that's related. Why? Because he's very close to the knowledge center. He's very close to, the position, the job skill. So that's how it would make sense, to give him, in its entirety, all the entire delegation work, and then have it reviewed thoroughly and will not accept unless it's completed, unless it's finished. And of course, delegation is a task that needs to be applauded or that needs to be, patted on the back. Because once again, the first rule of delegation is you're giving it to somebody at the lowest level of the organization. So when this happens, the person expects some kind of reward, motivation, or appraise, applaud, or some kind of recognition. So make sure that delegation incorporates all of these things. So that's about delegation. I hope you all are used to using delegating work, but there are certain areas, you know, that you have to be careful about not to delegate, but it's an absolute requirement that you should not procrastinate delegating the work. There might be reasons why some people superior to you will also hesitate in delegating the work. And if so, then you just end up, you know, not being productive. So it's an absolute requirement. I can get a feedback from you as to how much you would approve delegating work, as to how much you would approve or how much you would like being delegated. But there are certain areas, okay, that you have to understand that will not prosper. And some area that you cannot be delegated. I'll ask you a few questions. For example, your quarterly performance review, would you delegate it? Performance review for HR personnel? No, okay. Doing some research, gathering data for your project, would you delegate that? The answer is yes. Okay. Your weekly status report, your weekly updates, your weekly post, would you delegate that? Yes. The managers need to know what the updates are. They're not going to go looking for it. At the same time, posting a weekly status report based on the findings from delegated work, would you delegate posting weekly reports, status reports on your team? The answer is no. All right, let's take a quick look at this.
Mary was unsure how to go about a project Dave had assigned to her. He said that he wanted a chart that only showed the sales numbers for this quarter. He didn't say if he meant his sales or the sales of all his staff. Mary wondered if she should email Dave when a message from him arrived in her inbox. Mary, I just wanted to remind you that I'm available for any questions or guidance you may need concerning the project. Thanks, Dave, she wrote back. Dave, I'm glad to see this message. I was just about to ask you. Dave clarified what he needed for the project, and Mary delivered an excellent product.
All right, well, we're pretty much out of time, but we'll try to finish one small topic, setting up a ritual before we move on to the question and answers, if that's okay with you all. This is a very small topic, ritual. I'm sure this is also a relatively new term that you may not be used to. A ritual is everyday morning taking a shower, okay? A ritual is sometimes boring, okay? It's consumed as a boring, recurring task, but the power of ritual can never be underestimated. The rituals are the factors, the tidbits, the tools, and the bolts of the time management techniques that give you the extra space, that give you the time. Remember, when we talk about saving a few minutes here and there, the most important aspect of making that happen is the ritual, okay? So you have to set up rituals in life, okay? And these can be spontaneous, doesn't have to be planned ahead. And these can be fun, okay? So rituals start out as something very boring, okay? But, you know, it can turn out to be, you know, very effective techniques. Now, these rituals are flexible. It doesn't have, they're not set in stone, okay? These are flexible. If it don't work out, you change it. It's up to you. So however, you know, you want to set up the ritual is you would do it. And there are ways of doing it. It's usually based off time as to what time you would set up the ritual, okay? And how would you identify what you plan to do ahead with it? And how the ritual will trigger something else. Once you set up the first ritual, it will automatically trigger the next task. Okay, so it's like automated, a bit of, you know, streamlined, you know, technique that we try to incorporate in our techno world. And also, you know, the straight through processes that we rely on in our business world are also based off technique. I'm seeing a pop-up. So what is a ritual? Okay. Ritual is a recurring task. Okay. It is something that you need for extra time, for extra energy, and it gets you closer to the task. So you would identify what time the ritual is to be set for, the task, and the set start. So it becomes more essential to ritualize. What are some of the examples of ritualizing, or what are some of the examples of rituals that you can set up that will save you? Not really relating to the work, but relating to your plan for the day, relating for your progress on a daily basis. So if you look at this slide, establish a ritual before sleep. So what would you do that? A ritual would be something that you do, but you may not call it a ritual. Set up your clothes for the next day. Okay. Have a cup of milk. Okay. And do a little bit of exercise. Okay. Or walk. This would be a ritual for the next day. People in some parts of the world would have to plan meals for the next week, but because they wouldn't have time to think about it. So it's either written down, or it's shopped, or it's freezed, or it's cooked, however you want to like it, or it's planned for going out. And then the other best way to ritualize is to incorporate exercise. Okay, however you want to do it. Okay, and the ritual is an important aspect of time management technique. The reason why I'm saying is, you may not know it subconsciously, you may not realize it, but all the leaders, all the gurus, and all the famous people in the world have always had a ritual. And sometimes you can tell by looking at them that how boring the person was, because he does it the same thing every day. But yeah, but that's the ritual. For example, Albert Einstein, you probably know what his rituals were. You may have noticed it, but you may not have called it as a ritual. When you see a picture of Albert Einstein, he's always biking, right? He has a bicycle that he bikes. What was that? That was a ritual. It seemed that he used to walk, and that was his ritual, walk to work. And you see in this top Ivy League colleges, universities, how the university professors walk and how they bicycle. And it seems that Albert Einstein met a partner, a great mathematician, on his way to work every day, back and forth. Okay, and then that's how he met the famous guy, and that's how they devised many theories that help us in our day-to-day life, referring to the E = mass energy equation. Now, there was a pandemic during his time. I'm just talking about it because it just popped up in my mind. And there was a pandemic during his time, and he was socially distancing himself, and he stayed put. He stayed at home for the entire time. And believe me, some of his major achievements, research work, were done during this time. So this is the positive aspect of our stay-at-home time, where we're doing this, but there's a lot more that you can do. All right, some examples of rituals on the screen. You see it. How would you maximize? During a break time, read for 10 minutes. Deep breathing. We would stress more on exercises, brain work, physical exercises, and having a healthy diet, okay? And how to keep your social, personal hygiene, okay? And what to eat and what not. All right,
Linda
I'm going to end
found
here.
that when she wasn't busy, she would check her email, look at Facebook, and browse sites. She always planned to look at those websites for a few minutes, but sometimes she would lose track of time. She needed a way to maximize her time without losing track of time on websites. Linda set up time periods throughout the day when she would check work sites like her work email and work calendar, and personal sites like Facebook and news sites. She checked them first thing in the morning, at noon, and at the end of the day. Using this system, she found that she used her time more efficiently and accomplished much more throughout her day.
All right, I think I'm going to end now for the day. I think 15 minutes is what we have now. That's more than enough for our questions because of the topics. If there's anything urgent, any question missing, that I'm sure you can reach us out later. we'll have a long question and answer session maybe on a weekly basis. So I'm open for questions. Moderators, panelists, feel free to forward
Thank you
audio
so much.
or written questions for me.
Thank you so much, Shah. It was a fantastic session overall. We've got few questions already raised here. I will start asking you a few questions.
Before we go for the question, I would invite Saeed Bhai to walk the attendees through how they will receive LMS system details and how they can log on, how they can complete the assessment, because that is very, very critical. We have passed one day, it is second day. And if anybody wants to receive certificate, it is mandatory that you need to complete the assessment in LMS system. So Saeed Bhai, over to you. Just take 5 minutes.
Saeed, if you have any presentation that you can show on screen to them, how to log in and everything, it would be much beneficial.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shah Bhai. And yes, there are a lot of questions coming up on the LMS usage. So let me quickly share my screen right now. So the first thing that you would be getting is an email from us, and the email would be in this format, where you would get the details of the URL, the username, and the password, and you just have to click on that link. And once you click on that link, you would be redirected to this website, this page, and you have to just enter the username and the password. Please make sure that you are entering the username and password as given, okay, because the password is case sensitive. So please make sure that the exact password is entered. So once you log in, okay, so once you log in, you would get access to the page like this, and wherein you would see 4 different components here. So all these 4 components are required for you to go over. So first thing is, when you click on this first component, the time management e-learning, so you would get access to this e-learning module of time management, what Mr. Shah Siddiqui has explained yesterday and today. So this is like a presentation. So when you click on start, okay, it would play and then you can go around. There are different slides here. So just go through the slides and then finish it off. And once you finish all these modules, the assessment module would be enabled. So I have already completed this, so I will directly go to the assessment module here. So when you click on post assessment, you would get this screen. So wherein you can see that there are 16 questions that you're supposed to take, and each question carries 10 points. So that is 160 marks. So when you click on take assessment, the questions would start. So please make sure that you are answering all the 10 questions. Okay, the instructions are given here. And when you click on start, okay, so the questions would come one by one in linear fashion. So once you finish off all those 10 questions, okay, then at the end you would be shown a report wherein you would get to see how you performed, and then the answers would be shown over there. So because of lack of time, I'm not taking the entire questions here, okay, but 1 or 2 I'll just take it. Select the right option here and then click on next. Okay, so when you click on next, okay, you would be taken to the next question. Okay, the 80-20 rule states that 80% of your, okay, so results come from 20% of your actions. So just take all those questions, and then once you're done, you will see that the green says that those questions you've attempted, the red says unattempted, and then the gray says that you have not visited yet. So each question is for 1 minute. So just once you're finishing off all, click on end assessment at the last question. Okay, that is the 16th question. And then once you click on that, you get to see a report like this. So this is your report wherein it says what is the percentile. You have scored, how many 20. I mean, I have attempted only 2 questions, but then when you attempt all, so you would get the exact score here. You would also get to see the topper score as well. Okay, how much has the topper scored? So far we have seen that topper has scored 80. And then the percentile comparison as well. And then the detailed question answer analysis would be shown here. What is your answer and what is, the correct answer? And again, how many answers, how many users attempted this, and how many users got this right? So those details would be shown in over here. So this is how the assessment would actually look like. And then once you are done with this, the certificate will be enabled only when you finished 14 such sessions. So we would be getting the attendance, from the, management, and based on that, okay, we would enable the certificate option. For now, we would be adding, more e-learning programs and assessment modules, going forward. So today you would be seeing the post-assessment and the time management e-learning modules for your review. For those who have not received your email, okay, so what I would request is you can just, use the login as AMP user, ampskills.swifthcm.com/user sign up. So when you say user sign up, okay, you would get access to the LMS, wherein you can just, give your username and a password, a first name and your last name, and then you would be able to sign in from there. Okay, so this is about it. I know that LMS is very important for you to get the certificate. So please make sure that you are signing in properly with the right username and password that you are being provided. Any questions on LMS can we take right now?
So, Saeed bhai, yeah. So if you can please send this URL in the chat box, so those who have not yet registered or maybe lost where this email has gone, use that one and just enter your email ID and you'll be getting the registration done. Yeah, so
sure, all right.
Try to complete the registration right away during the session itself, everyone, those who have not done yet, and it is a very simple process.
Yeah, somebody asked a question like, what is the passing criteria? So 80% of your assessment should be right in order to get the certificate at the end. Yeah, so this is the link we have sent here in the chat box. So please use that to sign up. If you're already registered, then use the link from your password, from your email. And you can take the assessment as many times as possible. There is no limitation for that.
Yeah. Thanks, Saeed bhai. So it is over to Shahzad bhai and Shah Saab for question and answer. Let's get it done.
Thank you so much,
I'm available. Saeed bhai, thank you for the excellent. I think you did a lot of work on the LMS. It really looks good, and it is, it seems very intriguing now after everything has been posted. So the students, attendees should really enjoy the backup support you have on the LMS, because anything that you miss on the slides on my lectures can be caught up on the LMS. You have a video and you have the book to read and then the questions to test yourself. So on the slides, most of you are requesting slides. I would tell you not to worry about the slides because there's not much information on those. But what I'm saying is of the slides, pay attention to that and then read the book, and then we'll provide you an additional list of references that you can read to build on it. But remember, there are many topics and there will be many references to read. So do the best you can on the LMS, that should do it. And I have answered most of the questions on the Q&A, so refer to your answers. But I'm here for another 10 minutes for you all to ask questions.
So I've got a question here.
Yeah.
It is from Saeed Adnan. How can we manage time when we feel tired?
Well, that is a topic for stress management that would follow after this. You would get up, and you may have seen people, doing some push-ups or some sit-ups on the workplace. When you're tired, you do this. And whatever your brain relates to, you do that. If you need caffeine, go for it. It's good for health. Chai, go for it. It will help you open up. But however, if you're not sleeping enough, then everything would, be a waste. Okay. So make sure you sleep well, you sleep enough. If you have trouble with sleep, go to a sleep doctor. Next question.
Thank you so much. I've got many questions relating to LMS. So if Saeed bhai is there, can he address those questions?
Yeah, please.
I have a question. I didn't take assessment yesterday. Will I be able to do it today on time management?
Yes, because yesterday and today the time management topic was explained by Mr. Shah. So, the yesterday's assessment can be taken today as well. So tomorrow we would be posting a fresh assessment again on a different topic.
And is it possible to resubmit the assessment if score is not well?
Yes, assessment can be taken as many times as possible, though there is a limitation, but then because this is the first time, people are taking taking here. So we have enabled it, as many times as possible.
One question here for you from Mr. Shakir Rahmat Ali Sheikh. We are getting the assessment again and again, even after the completion of assessment.
Yeah, meaning if you can choose to not to take it, then don't take it. But then if you have already submitted once, okay, you don't need to take it again. But then if you take it again, the system will consider the best of the scores.
Assessment is single attempt or multiple? It's
multiple attempts. It's multiple attempts, yeah.
Shah Sahab, I've got one question for you here.
Yeah.
It's please explain delete in overcome the procrastinate.
In overcoming the procrastination.
Overcoming the procrastinate, yeah.
Well, if you have a task on your list that you need to do, and it's a very scary, tough task, then it's not going to help by just looking at the task. You will be just delaying, or procrastinating. But if there is a task that belongs to you that's not possible, or that somebody else's, then you take it out of your desktop or your description and give it to somebody else. And this is how you would delete a task from not being procrastinated.
Okay, thank you so much. And there is one last question. From where can we download a book written by Mr. Shah?
I think it's on the LMS. Mr. Saeed can do it. I can always send an email. Somebody can send an email. But I think it should be posted on the LMS as a reference manual for this topic. And there will always be a student manual for each topic that would be uploaded on the LMS. And further to this, I want to ask Mr. Saeed if we can have the assessment open for a few days or until the end of the session, because there might be topics catching up, and I want you all to read the manual and answer the question, not just based on the lecture. So if you need some extra time, I think we should allow, it may be possible to have, depending on how the settings are for the LMS. So let them have more time on the assessment until throughout the end of the session, or if not, at least for a week.
Yes, time management assessment is open, and it will be open, until further notice.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Saeed and Shah Sahab. Shansha bhai, we will be closing for the day. So if you have to talk about something for 2 minutes.
There are 2 more questions, Shahzad bhai, if you can take those up.
Okay.
I'm available if there are any other more questions.
It is like thanking you, sir. Explain, delete, and overcome the procrastination.
The last question is how to recap yesterday's session, as I was not part of it. So, Shah Sahab, the question is how to recap yesterday's session. So I believe we are going to post the recording of yesterday's session as well for the attendees, where you can go and listen to it. So that arrangement will be done today or tomorrow.
Sure. So.
Okay, so I think we are done. And my request to everyone who is attending these sessions, who attended yesterday and today, who are like regular, anybody who has attended today, please make sure you are attending every day. Otherwise, it will not be useful. So the whole exercise AMP and all 3 partners is doing for you, and the session is for you. So you have to be consistent, you have to be regular, and this is all provided free. Nobody is charging anything. So we need serious people who really wanted to take advantage of it. So you will be on time and you'll be attending all 15 sessions. So that's from my end, and I'll give it to Shah Sahab to close the session, and Shahzad bhai.
Okay, thank you so much, Shansha bhai, and thank you so much, Mr. Shah and Mr. Saeed, for your valuable time today. We will see you again tomorrow with a new topic and all rejuvenated for our next session, inshallah. To all the participants, it was fantastic to have you all on board. Keep coming for these live sessions, and I'm sure with every session, everyone is taking something new with him. So thank you for being a part of AMP Employability and Soft Skill program. We will inshallah see you all tomorrow. Also ask your friends and family members to join these sessions and benefit by improving their skills to face the corporate world out there today. Thank you so much. We'll be ending this session for now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. See you tomorrow. Bye.